This is a moment of remembrance and reflection to what happened to individual lives 75 years ago and to what happened to our nation 75 years ago. If you reflect upon that day, as Congressman Snyder reflected, it was a day of normal activity. People were going about their duties, their responsibility, their church, family, normal activities. And it was in that moment of normal activities that the world changed. Lives perished, people responded. We have here the tugboat USS Hoga, and under its leadership responded that day as well, to that day that started out normal but ended in extraordinary tragedy and world-changing events. The Hoga itself, under its leadership, fought for 72 hours the fires, assisted in beaching the USS Nevada that day in order to save lives and to clear the channel. That day, over 300 planes were destroyed, 20 vessels destroyed, which was so much of the USS United States Naval Fleet. And so what started out as a normal day ended in an extraordinary, historical, and tragic day. We also see on that day, as we reflect on it, the United States' mood on that day was not excitement about entry into any war. There was a resistance to the desire of Churchill and Roosevelt for the United States to be engaged in this world enterprise, this world fight. And the United States said, no, let us enjoy our freedom here. It is not our business. And preceding that incredible day in December 7, 1941, months earlier, President Roosevelt had spoken to the nation, leading to our potential engagement into the conflict. And he reflected on 4 freedoms. It is known as his 4 freedom speech, in which he talked about that we should be concerned that people all over the world have the right to fundamental freedoms, and he listed 4 and said everyone across the world should have the freedom of speech and expression. Everyone across the globe should have the freedom to worship, which we hold dear. Everyone across the globe should have freedom from want and freedom from fear. The 4 fears he spoke to, and said the United States should be concerned about it, trying to position the United States to resist that temptation toward isolationism. And so he spoke of that, and as you look at those 4 freedoms, 2 of them are talked about in our Constitution: speech and expression and worship. But the freedom from want and the freedom from fear are not in our Bill of Rights. But it is what we as Americans and as humans understand is precious across the globe. And so that day of normalcy was also preceded by a day in which the United States was not hankering for a fight. We were not desiring the battle. And then we also reflect upon the response of the United States of America on that day. There was never a doubt, again, about whether the United States should enter the conflict. There was never a doubt as to whether it is our responsibility. We summoned the immediate courage and strength and principle and said, the United States is engaged, we declare war. We responded as a nation to a mobilization that the world has never known before. We mobilized not just our forces there at Pearl Harbor, not just our naval fleets across the globe, but we mobilized our citizens to engage in this enterprise, to bring freedom, to liberate people, and to preserve and protect our way of life here in the United States. There's nothing more appropriate in this moment of reflection than what we have already done, which was to salute our World War II heroes. They volunteered. They were there. They served us. They came back home, and truly, they are the greatest generation. Please give them a round of applause once again. Soldiers and sailors, you cannot see it, but they're all standing behind you. It is truly how America feels about that generation, and it is important to reflect on that day. From an Arkansas standpoint, 144 Arkansans served at Pearl Harbor. 23 Arkansans were killed on the USS Arizona. And I'm delighted today that we have Mr. Chase and Mr. Smith, both survivors of that incredible day in history. We salute you. And it's not just about that immediate response. I actually wanted that statistic. How many people from Arkansas went and signed up at the recruiting office on December 8th, 1941? That number has to be amazing. But it was not on that next day, but it was at some time later during World War II that my father also signed up in World War II and served the United States Navy in the Aleutian Islands. And so we all came to respond to the need of our country. And as this is a moment of reflection, we can also make it a moment of resolve that we here in the United States of America, 75 years after Pearl Harbor, resolve ourselves to support the same freedoms that our fathers served and fought for in World War II, and that veterans across the United States have fought and preserved for across history. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a day of remembrance. It is a day of resolve. May God bless the United States of America.